All right, everybody, we are live again. Dynasty Mirror, search for who. Hold on one second. Okay, let me switch things up. Let's see here. Let's get this Ogugu over here. Okay, we're gonna get this Ogugu right here. We're gonna scoot this down. Hold on, let me get my statues together. Here we go. Bam. Okay, so we got that Ogugu right there. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, we're good now. All right, we are live, everybody. Dynasty Mirror, search for who. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's topic is: can we cure or get rid of the tribalism in Nigeria if we were to intermarry amongst tribes? That's today's topic. Before we get started, a couple of announcements. Number one, we are still rolling to the Oshun Festival. Okay, we are still rolling to the Oshun Festival. We are going. All right. So go to dynastymirror.com. Again, dynastymirror.com. Send me a message and I'll get the information to you. Also in December, we still rolling to Sierra Leone as well. We're rolling, y'all. We're rolling. This coronavirus situation is going to subside. Now I think we'll be somewhat back to normal as far as traveling. I'm going to predict mid-June. Mid-June. That's what I'm going to predict, mid-June. So y'all, we are still rolling. So hit me up. Go to dynastymirror.com. Hit me up. And also too, if you're interested in setting up a business, guys, the way corporate America, because of coronavirus, corporate is affecting corporate America. It's not going to be the same. Okay, this is going to have a major impact on corporate America. So with that being said, if you want to start your own gold franchise, hit me up, dynastymirror.com. Send me a message. Hello, Grace. I can't hear you. Can't hear you. Say something, Grace. Yeah, we can't hear you. Africa Wahala, you there, brother?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the topic: am I being too ambitious? Or what are your thoughts? Now, let me ask you this: are you married to a Yoruba woman?
Can you hear me now?
We hear you now. We hear you now.
Okay.
Are you
Yes.
married to a Yoruba woman?
Yes, I am. I'm married to a Yoruba woman.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, do you think that if Nigerians were to intermarry as far as tribes, that would end or reduce some of the tribalism?
That is the capital yes, in my opinion.
Why? Expand on that.
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me on your show.
Uh huh.
It's a great opportunity to share wisdom and learn at the same time. So when it comes to marriages at first, marriages bond people and families together, and in many cases, communities. But there is a problem, which is in the fact that a lot of people that intend to get married to people outside their tribes, their family members and their community members opposed it, especially people from the older generation. But then again, the younger people who usually don't have that trait of tribalism, they somehow find themselves becoming more tribalized the older they get. And I'm speaking from a personal experience because I mean, I lived in Nigeria for 26 years and I've visited a couple of times since I left in 2012. But it's just how it is. The older you grow within the having the Nigerian mindset, the more tribalistic you get, which is a bad thing, at the end of the day. And I feel like the reason why a lot of us get tribalistic and defensive when we're talking about our tribes, our regions, it has a lot more to do with um, I don't want to say poverty, but it has a lot more to do with not having the best living conditions possible, and the frustration you can get from not having best possible living conditions make you start searching outside, looking for somewhere to put the blame on, and you can become tribalistic, ethnocentric and stuff like that. But the truth is, getting married to people from outside your tribe definitely would help to solidify the tribalism that we have in the country.
Now, Virtue Grace, how you doing?
I'm fine, Dynast. Good to see you.
See you
And
too.
thanks for having me on your
Oh,
show.
anytime. You are welcome. Anytime
Mhm.
you are. Now,
Okay.
you're Teve.
Yes, I'm Tip.
Umzu. Umzu.
No. Msu.
Umzu. Okay, Umzu. Now, would you marry outside of your tribe?
Of course. I would. Um and to answer the question of the show, yes, just like the African Wahala has said, if we intermarry in Nigeria, it will go a long way to address the um ethnic issues that we have in the country. And I say this because I've seen a lot of people intermarry, and like African Wahala said, intermarriage bonds not just the individuals but the families involved, because marriage in Africa, in Nigeria, transcends just two individuals. It's a coming together of families and even communities at large. So when people contract intermarriage, between two different tribes, it helps to bridge that ethnic divide that exists in Nigeria. You get to understand the other culture better, and in most cases, those stereotypes that are usually associated with a certain tribe, you get to discover that they are actually false, they are not true, and it fosters better understanding. So I feel like if we promote intermarriage in the country, it will go a long way to help address the tribal differences that we always have, which to me I feel should not be you know an issue hindering our progress and our development as Nigerians. I've had friends or relatives of friends who intermarried. In Benue State, for instance, where I come from,
Uh,
there are about 5 ethnic groups, that is tribes. We have Tiv, Idoma, Igede, Etulo. But you will not believe that in Benue State, these different tribes that I've just mentioned do not like to intermarry. Tiv and Igede people, there is this long-standing belief that they are not meant to intermarry. Tiv and Idoma always fight,
okay.
contest for superiority. Tiv people say we are the majority and Idoma people are the minority. Idoma people want to assert themselves. So there's always this friction between Tiv and Idoma people. And because of that, intermarriage between Tiv and Idoma people is very difficult. But when it does happen, it's usually a beautiful thing. I had a friend in school back then whose uncle ended up getting married to an Idoma person.
Uh,
I had a lecturer in the university, a Tiv person, who ended up marrying an Igede person. They dated for about 12 years. And it took them that long to finally get married because the families would not let it happen.
why? Why?
Because according to them, that there is a long standing history story, something that happened in the past, is they went to war, something happened, and because of that they are not going to get married. The stories seem so old, seem so outdated, that you just don't find substance in the stories for why somebody cannot get married to the other person. And these things just seem to enforce our differences and just enforce, all of the issues we have in the country. So I strongly believe that if we intermarry amongst ourselves, I mean, we are Nigerians. If we intermarry amongst ourselves, it's going to go a long way to address all of the tribal issues that we have um, in Nigeria.
Now, let me ask you this, Grace. If if white Brad from Europe shows up,
A what?
Brad from Europe, if Brad from Europe showed up, and he wanted to marry someone in a Teves drop, someone from your ethnic group, will they be as discriminating with Brad as they will be with the other ethnic group?
Then,
Brad, no, Brad from
do, you-
is
do you know why I'm laughing?
why?
My cousin is married to a French man.
Uh-huh. And they brought
So
they let him in. Hold on, they let him. Yeah, I know.
my cousin is married to a French man. She lives in, is it Lyon they call it. And it's funny because the marriage happened with very, very less resistance from the family,
Of course, of course.
and it happened like in a snap of a finger. Before I knew it, I found out that my cousin was married to a French man and she's gone. But if it were for her to get married to someone from another tribe in Nigeria, trust me, it would have been an issue. It would have been a big deal, a lot of resistance. But sadly, that's the case with many Nigerians.
Uh-huh.
It's very easy for a Nigerian to get married to a Brad, like you are saying, but
Uh-huh.
it's difficult for a Nigerian to get married to another Nigerian who is a different tribe. I had a
But
personal experience. I was in a relationship for 5 years. We Everything was going on very well.
well,
You
Brad,
know,
hold on. You got a piece of
no, 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 not a brat. That is stuff. It wasn't a brat. It was so I was in a relationship with an Igbo guy. I'm Tiv. He was
uh-huh.
Igbo.
Uh-huh.
And if you understand the tribal issues in Nigeria, you will know that Tiv and Igbo is like a very far divide, different words apart.
Okay.
And the likelihood of that marriage happening is like very slim like this.
Right.
But the relationship was okay, everything was going on fine. Then one morning he woke up and started, oh, you see, my mom said, because I'm the first son, I cannot marry out of my tribe. Not even tribe,
Right.
Dynast. I cannot marry out of my village. Can you hear that? I cannot even marry out of my village. I have to
Yeah.
marry somebody from my village because I'm the first born, I'm the first son, so I have to stay within our culture. A lot of just stories. And I was like, where are all of this coming from? Because I've met your mom, she was cool with me, we're cool with each other. She never said anything about no, all these stories coming up. But long story short, we broke up. He ended
Uh-huh.
up marrying an Igbo girl.
Uh-huh.
So now that's the problem. Sometimes the individuals involved are cool, but the family members are the ones who usually mount pressure on the individuals. Most times if the two of you are strong enough and you resist the family pressure, you end
Right.
up getting married. And trust me, the marriage usually goes very well because at the end of the day, both families get to deal with it and accept it as it is, and everybody is happy at the end of the day. But before it happens, most times it meets a lot of resistance.
Uh-huh. So, but
Yeah.
after 5 years, did that just catch you off guard, or like how did that make you feel? Like,
Dennis, to be honest, I was broken. I was broken for almost a year,
huh?
and
Did you guys discuss marriage?
did we what?
Did you guys discuss marriage?
Yes, we did.
Uh huh.
We like I told you, marriage was in the picture. He had
Yeah, but
taken me
you
to
gotta
go meet
understand,
his mom. He
yeah,
had
like,
taken me to go meet his mom,
uh,
and he told me, I want to take you to go meet my mom because I want us to get married. So I want this to the next level. I said, okay, fine. We went together, saw the mom. The dad is late. So the mom was like, okay, she's a good girl. She interviewed me. Oh, goodness. She asked me a lot of questions, all of those, you know, interviews and scrutiny that all these Nigerian parents want to do. Make
right.
sure that you are the best person and all of that. At the end of the day, she said, oh, well, that's okay. We are coming to see your people and all of that. Everything was fine. Then one morning, the guy woke up and my mom said, I have to marry within, except you want to kill me. If you want to kill me by marrying outside of our tribe, I will just die and follow your father. This all those drama that Nigerian mothers like to act. So I said, okay, let your mother not die because of me. You know, Eventually we parted ways, and like I said, he ended up getting married to an Igbo person.
Uh,
So that's how family resistance usually hinder intertribal marriages. But like I said, if the parties involved are strong enough to resist the pressure, they end up getting married.
uh,
I
after a
was
while,
broken, to answer your question. Yes, I was broken. I was broken for almost a year. It happened around the time that so many things were just happening in my life, like going
like,
left,
back,
left, and it felt like it was so much on me. But then eventually, I'm here. I've put my life together. Everybody is fine.
okay, good, good. Guys, hit that like button, okay? As you come into the chat room, please hit the like button. Don't be stingy to likes, hit the like button. After Wahala, how much influence do like Nigerian moms have on their sons? Because like I can marry who I want to marry. Like I mean, I don't care what my mom says. I'm gonna marry who I want to marry. But it's just for some reason, like Nigerian boys, like their moms control them. Like what's up with that?
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. It's not a generalistic thing, well, to say Nigerian moms, in terms of their relationship with their sons,
Uh,
but and I don't think it's a thing you can generalize also in terms of tribes. It's not
uh,
anything peculiar to any tribe. I believe it's more about the family unit that that comes from, right?
uh,
In my own case, for example, I'm really, really close to my mom, and that has been a problem between my mom and my wife to an extent in the past.
really?
And my brother is absolutely not close to my mom,
Hmm.
so that's where the differences come in. But then, yeah, if you're close to your mom, then your mom has a strong influence on the decisions you make, especially when it comes to relationships and marriage. So, to be honest, every lady out there trying to go for a guy, regardless what part of the country is from, as a matter of fact, regardless what part of the world he's from, because I believe this transcends outside Africa too. If you're with a guy that is super close to his mom, know that you have two battles.
Know that what?
You have two battles to
Oh
fight.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. Um, I just wanted to chip in to the question you asked earlier. You asked about um, if a Brad came in from somewhere in Scandinavia and he
Yeah.
comes to the village, tries to get married to the child of they're going to support him 110%. I wouldn't say 110%, but way more than 90% sure that he's going to be supported. And you know why? It's my brother. It boils down
We hate ourselves.
to man, it's self-esteem, bro. It's all
Yeah.
about self-esteem, because a lot of times if you've been living in poverty situation for so long, that destroys your self-esteem over time. Okay, so you find yourself worshiping and respecting anything that you perceive as more wealthy than you. And if you're a foreigner, you're light skinned, you're from Asia, you're from Europe, from Latin America, they would respect you. They would automatically perceive you as someone that has money. Okay. And um yeah, they would support the marriage because they know one thing for sure, that if you can get married to their daughter, you take her to whatever country she ends up at, she will be sending in dollars to the community.
Yes.
She'll be sending in foreign currency.
So I'm gonna tell you something. When I get married to an African woman, like one of the stipulations is she's not coming to America at all.
Great. Let her know that from the get-go.
Oh yeah, she's not coming. Right. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
coming. No.
Because I'll tell you the truth, bro. Diners, you go to Nigeria, with your American accent, man, you're gonna get women flocking around you. That's just simple fact. I'm sure you already know this. I don't even need to tell you.
Mhm.
So, for that reason, yeah, you need to make your goals and principles well stated to the woman so she understands what she's getting into, and she's not expecting to get married to you for the green card.
Yeah, no green card. No. Green card, no.
And
No, not
also, then there's usually this conversation amongst Nigerian ladies that they want to have half-caste babies, so they want to have babies that look that look white. So because of that, they want to get married to a white guy. And apart from that, yes, the fact that getting married to a Brad guarantees leaving the country. I mean, a lot of people feel like getting married to a white person is the escape route out of Nigeria, out of what people call poverty, backwardness, and everything negative that they can associate with Nigeria. So people, you find a lot of ladies in Nigeria most of the times looking out for white guys. Oh, guy, he's hot, he's this, he's a white guy, this one, just doing the most to date a white person. I want to have white babies and go abroad, live life, and all of that. So when such a person comes, the family supports the girl 100%. And trust me, the wedding, the marriage ceremony, everything is usually lavish and extravagant. At the end of the day, she goes and the family thinks that's a guaranteed check. She's going to send money home, everything. The girl thinks that, okay, she's going to have half-caste babies and all of that. So that's usually the conversation amongst like an average Nigerian girl.
So this is
But I'm not saying it's
normal
I'm not saying that is the case for most Nigerian ladies.
Okay.
Some, not all, some. Because the truth is there are Nigerian ladies whose esteem is above maybe getting married to a white person. Nigerian women, we're industrious, we work to earn our money and take care of ourselves, support our families and all of that. But there are a few Nigerian ladies who think getting married to a Brad is an escape route. And to answer the question you asked earlier, because I saw somebody in the chat room said, did I answer the question you asked whether I'm going to marry a Brad, yes or not? For me, I think my it's a no. It's a no because there's just this resistance inside of me towards people like that.
Uh-huh.
I love people within my race. I love people within, my race. So I'm going to stay within my race and just enjoy my life and be happy. So I guess I've answered that person.
Virtual Grace, whatever happened to the case? It's like 2 years ago. Brad killed his wife, who was a singer in Lagos.
Yes.
Whatever happened to that? Like that, I can't find anything on it. Did he ever go to jail? In fact, I want to say
I don't think I've also not heard anything about it since then. I've not.
yeah, I want to say he killed the wife and the daughter in Lagos.
Yes.
And they just been like they've been hush hush about it. Like
I've not heard anything about it yet. And then there was another story sometime at last year about a Lebanese guy who got married to a Nigerian lady. They were living in Lekki.
Uh-huh.
Then one day he got into a fight with their neighbor, a lady in their a lady who happened to be their neighbor, and
And
they
he
beat
called
this lady up.
some area boys to come beat the
No,
girl. No, I know the story. The
okay, you
Lebanese
know the
guy,
story.
yeah,
Okay,
the Lebanese guy
okay.
called some area boys. Oh no, he got the police actually, our security to come beat the neighbor up.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. So it sparked a lot of outrage, and eventually the guy was arrested. They picked him up and they picked his wife up as well.
You know what's
They
funny
were
though?
arrested.
You know what's
What?
funny? Like whenever somebody gets arrested in Nigeria, like say somebody murders somebody, they take the guilty person to the murder scene and they have a press conference. You know what I'm talking about? And so the police is like, yes, right here, this man right here killed somebody right there, right here. And then the person that did the killing is like, yeah, well, I needed the money. I just killed. It's so weird. But with Brad and the Lebanese guy, they didn't do that. Like
Mhm.
it's weird. They do like
That's
it's just so funny. They do like a live press conference with the killers on site, have them react.
yes.
It's funny. It's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny.
There's Nigeria police.
Yeah.
They parade them live and interrogate them with the
Yeah.
media
Right.
covering the interrogations and all. The air
Right.
it. I don't know
Yeah.
why they do that.
But it's funny as hell. Like I was watching something the other day. It was I forgot where it was at. But yeah, these four guys killed this Igbo guy who was a millionaire. And the police
Mm.
Yes.
they brought the four men to the site. It started a chair telling them to tell like reenact what happened, and they were just like, "Well, we just didn't have any money, and it went wrong." And then the police are like, "We have apprehended the people." It's funny as hell. Listen, we're gonna open up the lines. If you guys want to call in, send me an email. All right, don't ask me 50 times how do I call in. All right, so listen, if you want to call in, send me an email, and I will send you the link, and you can call in and ask your question. Again, send me an email. Send me an email if you want to call in, and I will um, send you a link, and you can call in. And again, guys, hit that like button when you come to the chat room. Please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate it. Again, if you want to call in, send me an email, and we'll send you the link. Adarali,
Brother
how?
Dennis,
Yeah, go ahead.
while that is going on, let me chip in and
Go ahead.
explain what I feel like the root cause of the inter-tribal beefs originate.
Go ahead.
The main thing is that um, it ultimately boils down to how well the people have their lives, how far away from poverty people are,
Okay.
how much access people have to resources and to just having a very good life. If people had decent lives for the most part, and they did not have to fight one another for resources, and
Uh-huh.
the government was efficient, and there will be less tribalism in the country. That's just the truth. And I believe that also translates to other countries on the continent. So people are just angry at one another over tribes, mainly because number one, they and their cultures and traditions. And number two, the situation with the poverty in the countries makes people more agitated and makes people want to point fingers as quick as possible. So the same concept that applies to a bride coming in, married to a lady from a local area, and the family members have no problem with it. That would also apply to a local Nigerian from another tribe that is wealthy, that is boastful about his wealth, that everybody see that this person has money. If he goes to any village trying to marry someone from another tribe, as far as that person family that he's trying to get married to is not as wealthy, or um, not necessarily not as wealthy, but if they if they're in a lower class in terms of their finances in the country, there is a great chance that they will not turn down the guy from the other tribe, because it boils down to, for a lot of people anyways, it boils down to an opportunity to escape from poverty. That's why they would allow their daughters, allow their most of the time their daughters, I wouldn't say sons, they would allow their daughters to get married to anybody, as far as that person has a great chance of taking them out of poverty. Okay, so it's quite unfortunate, and that's why me personally on my platform, I always try to talk about some problems that we have, some government derived problems that have become psychological over a long period of time. We have those problems, and we need to start addressing those problems so that we can move forward. Okay. At the end of the day, when I was growing up as a kid, I grew up in Abuja. And in
Okay.
Abuja, it was quite multi-tribal. My classmates were Idoma. Um, I knew people from the East, Igbos. Obviously, I knew lots of Hausas, Yorubas. Everybody was living good, well, happy. Nobody had no tribal problems as kids. But the older we grew and the more these kids associated more with their family members, and we began to realize how politicized a lot of things are. For example, I have some kids from the north that once they grew up, they had to go take over the power that their fathers already held in the country, right? They easily got into top positions in terms of their career searches. They had more access to money, and that just naturally generates some sort of hard negative feeling towards that person and that particular tribe, because now you're beginning to think that, okay, these guys have been in power for so long, and my own group is suffering for that reason. Now I'm going to start pointing fingers at them. But the truth is that within every tribe, there are good people and there are bad people, right? Now, um, Virtual Grace said something earlier, which is awesome, remarkable. She broke down the tribal groups that they have in Benue State, and she also explained how um, people within the same state, but from different ethnic groups, don't like getting married to one another for so many reasons. If you think about it, if people that are really similar, because at the end of the day, the Tiv people from Benue State and the Idomas from Benue State, they're quite similar,
Is
right?
that true?
If
Hold on.
they do not,
Is that true, Virtue Grace? Are you guys quite similar?
Yes, we are quite similar because we live in the same state, although our cultural practices are different, but we eat similar foods. We inhabit the same space. So if we make efforts, it's easy for us to understand each other.
Uh-huh.
But because of this cultural, suspicion, these people are like this, these people are like this, so for this reason we can't associate with them, we are more than them, all of those just petty sentiments that just enforce differences and keep people aside, apart. So African while I continue.
yeah. So I was talking about the differences that exist amongst within close proximity. For example, Benue State, where they have the Idomas, the Thieves, they are different in some aspects and they are similar in some aspects. But the thing is, if people that are in such a close proximity cannot get together and move forward as a unit to develop the state of Benue and the entire country of Nigeria, then we have a lot of problems. We have a
Mm-hmm.
deep problem. And this thing is also similar. The same story that Grace mentioned happens where I'm from. I'm from Ogun State, and in Ogun State, we're all Yorubas, right? But we're from different um,
Abiokuta.
tr- Yes, there is the Abeokuta. My wife is Abeokuta. Me, I'm Ijebu. But check this out. The Ijebus and
Ijebu,
Abeokutas.
Ijebu, Ijebu.
Yes, the Ijebus and the Abeokutas are not friends. It's funny, it's crazy. And the reason stems from a historical story that happened one time when they had a beef, they had a minor war, and everything ended. People migrated far apart from one another. Their dialects changed over time because at the end of the day, we're all from the same source. All the Yorubas are from Oshun, from Ife, Ile-Ife, right? But over time, people migrated to different parts of the southwest of the country, and with time, their dialects change. But the thing is, if someone from, for example, Oshun State is speaking Yoruba in its native intonation, and me as an Ijebu person, I'm listening, I can understand 90% of what he's saying if I pay close attention. So ultimately, we're more similar than we're different, but we let these little issues come in between us and prevent us from seeing the bigger picture. All right. And the biggest driving force to the differences that we have right now in the country, on the continent, in fact, in the entire world, the biggest issue we have is the lack of access to resources. If most individuals within a society lived a good life, they were far away from poverty, and the government benefits is touching everybody to a large degree, and people are just okay. People are okay. There is, you know what I mean, right? Like, I'll give you a typical example, even though I don't like using Oyinbo countries as an example, but I just have to in this case. A country like Norway, for example. Norway, majority of the population have a good, decent life. Okay. And if we had that same system replicated in Nigeria, for example, there will be less tribalism. And that's the truth. People would care less about getting married to someone from another tribe because of the tribal differences. The fact that people are already progressing, they would care less about issues like that. And that's just a fact.
Real quick, we got
But
one second, Virtue. 1 second, Grace. Ahes, go ahead with your question.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead. All right. Sorry, but yeah, okay. All right, I tried. All right, go ahead, Virtue, Grace.
oh, okay, so I want to disagree with something the African Wahala said earlier about um the possibility of people intermarrying if people have access to resources, and people care less about getting married to come out of poverty. I say I say this because in Nigeria, for instance, there are a lot of misunderstandings that come with being from a certain tribe. So someone that is an Igbo, Igbo people are very industrious, and for the most times they have access to some reasonable amount of resources, financial especially, given the fact that they do business and all of that. But most times there's this perception that people have of Igbo people, that a good number of them are ritualists, and that their money is not genuine. So if an Igbo person, for instance, comes to marry somebody from Benue State, and I use Benue State because this is where I am from and I understand it very well. I understand my people. If someone from an Igbo person comes to marry somebody from Benue, and then he shows up with the money bag, looking all lavish and extravagant, the average thief person would be suspicious of him, would question his wealth, and will be hesitant to hand his daughter in marriage to him, because there's this general belief that Igbo people, if you control a lot of money, you are that rich, no matter the business you are doing, you're probably a ritualist. So there's that suspicion, and for that reason, they would not want to give their daughter to you in marriage. So and I think that's because of, you know, the suspicion that comes, which there are things that have been passed down to us, and somehow we've imbibed it over time. You know, from generations, they tell you these particular people, they are like this. These particular people, they behave a certain way. There are things they do that are not good, so you should not associate with them for any reason. So as you grow up, you know, unconsciously, you have these warnings that were given to you at the back of your mind, and it determines the way you interact with these people. You tread with caution when dealing with them. And for me, it's easy for me because I went to a boarding school, a federal unity school, all girls, but I had schoolmates from all over the country. I had Igbo people, Hausa, Yoruba. So right from, you know, my elementary school stage, I mingled with people from different parts of Nigeria. So I
What
got
school
to
did you go to,
realize
please?
that I went to Federal Government Girls College, Boko, in Benue State.
I went to Federal Government College, Ilorin.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
What set?
2001.
2001. Was that the year you graduated?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I graduated in 2006. So,
Okay.
yeah, so those are the issues. But for me, because I went to school with people from different parts of Nigeria, and that was the essence of the Federal Unity Schools, African Wahala, to promote that national understanding and unity amongst Nigerians. Because
Absolutely.
some of the reasons, some of the causes of the Nigeria Civil War, one was the issue of cultural differences and misunderstandings. So that was the reason for even the NYSC that we do now. So the unity schools were established to foster national unity and understanding, and it did a good job. I went to school with people that came from different parts of the country. We lived together in the hostel, ate together, we played together, did everything. So there was this general understanding. I have mates that Igbo people who understand my language, they speak my language, they eat our food. So it's like, it's so good. And that was why it was easy for me to date an Igbo person for that long, because I've interacted with Igbo people, and I got to realize that they are not as bad as I was made to understand they are when I was growing up. But the average person from Benue State is suspicious of an Igbo person. They say an Igbo people are ritualists, no matter how hardworking and sincere they engage in business. So there's usually that resistance. If an Igbo person comes like that with the kind of money you are talking African wahala, there'll be resistance, there'll be that hesitation. So for me, I feel like we should do more. We can do more to promote that cultural understanding amongst Nigerians. If that is done, intermarriage will be, more easy to contract amongst us. But as long as we are all, I'm from, for instance, a northern Nigerian. And at this point, I think religion also plays a part in
Yes.
keeping us aside.
Yes.
The northern Nigeria is conservative, and the religion practiced there is largely Islam.
Right.
There are a few Christians of northern origin, but the general religion there is Islam. When you come down to the middle belt, where I am from, there's Christianity, but there are different denominations of Christianity, and this denomination also influence the choice of a marriage partner.
Oh
So
wow.
a thief person, the thief people believe that there's Catholic church and there's NKST church. That one is a typical church amongst thief people, my people. You now believe that even amongst thief people, because I grew up in an NKST family, somebody from a Catholic family coming to marry me, there'll be this hesitation. But we are all thief
Interesting.
people. Yes, we are all thief people. But because I'm NKSC, you are Catholic, there will be that little hesitation. You
Mm.
see. So now somebody from the northern part of Nigeria,
Right.
there are very, the chances of somebody from northern Nigeria getting married to somebody from southern Nigeria or eastern Nigeria is like this, almost non-existent. Like the possibility is almost not there, because apart from me being Hausa and you being Igbo, I'm a Muslim, you're a Christian, so it can't happen.
Western
So
religion.
these things, what?
I was just saying Western religion, just the way it just divides us even more.
Mm.
Yes, yes. So those are the issues that just seek to keep us apart. But if we can seek to understand people better, if we seek to understand our different cultures, my best friend in school was Idoma. I would go to
Mm.
their house, spend the weekend in their house, eat there. I was treated like a daughter. So I understand Idoma people as well. They are good people, they are nice people. But someone who has not made effort to understand them would think Idoma people are a certain way, which is not true.
Grace, do you
Somebody
mind if I
from
ask a
northern.
question?
Okay.
Yeah. You're Tiv, right?
Yes.
So the Tiv language and the Idoma language, are there any similarities?
No. No
Oh, not a,
similarities.
like
The
zero?
the the language in Benue State that is similar to Tiv is Etulo.
Okay.
So if a Tulo person speaks and I pay close attention, I would understand a little bit. But a Tulo people understand Tiv language clearly. But Tiv people will have
Okay.
to put in effort to understand the Tulo language. And because of that, it's easier for a Tiv person to marry an Etulo person.
Mm.
Tiv people intermarry with Etulo people because the Etulo people live in a small portion of an area amongst the Tiv people. So
Mm.
there are more chances of us getting married because there's that understanding. And that's what I said earlier, that if we make efforts to understand ourselves, it will be easier for us to get married. But because
Mm.
this one is Ibira, Tiv,
Mm.
automatically that poses a challenge. This person
Mm.
is Ibira, Tiv, so how do I start? And for people that have parents alive, they say, I don't understand these people. How am I going to, start? How is it going to happen? These people, they killed somebody and buried somewhere. So because of that, there's a cause that is following them. You cannot get married to them. If you get married to them, you give birth, your child is going to die. All of these just these crazy, stories that
Yeah.
our parents just tell us to instill fear in us. But when
You
we
know what?
leave our areas and come to the cities, for instance, you come to Lagos now, you meet somebody, the default is you like this person regardless of where this person is from. You get into a relationship with this person, everything goes on well, you want to get married to this person. You are dealing with this person as an individual now, not as somebody coming from a certain background, until you probably go back home to tell your parents about it, and then they start telling you all of the stories why you cannot marry somebody from here, why it can't happen. Meanwhile, the two of you involved are cool with each other, you do not have a problem. This is somebody you feel you can get married to and you'll be happy and comfortable with the person. So
Mm.
like I've been saying, just making efforts to understand ourselves will help to foster intermarriage amongst Nigerians. And it will help to solve a lot of these national issues that we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But now the question is, can we create a platform that would make it more possible and make it more admirable for people from different ethnic groups to get married, come together, and possibly give birth to a new generation of less tribal people? Reason I'm saying this is that naturally the way Abuja and Lagos are set up, they're like the cultural melting point of the country.
Melting point.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. So most people in those two cities, they easily date and get married to people outside their tribes. But
Mm-hmm.
within the states, like I've had the opportunity to live in Abuja, I've lived in Kwara State, and I've lived in Ogun State, and I've lived in Lagos. So so Abuja and Lagos aside, Kwara State and Ogun State, people are really tribal in those places, and that's just the truth. People would rather stick to their own, and it's a good thing without a doubt, but it minimizes the chances of us to enjoy the entire country that is tribal free, you know. And
Yeah.
a lot of our parents, the people from the older generation in general, they have this mindset
Mm.
that they do not want some aspect of our culture and traditions to die off,
Yeah.
which I agree with to a large extent. But then there is a lot of things within our cultures and traditions that we actually need to let go right now in 2020,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
without a doubt. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are going to oppose what I'm saying. They're going to be saying stuff like, no, we need to keep it cultural. We need to keep it a certain way. We can't do that right now in 2020. And the reason why that is that right now we have a lot of very good. Right now we have a lot of Africans from the diaspora that are trying to come back into the continent.
Right.
Yeah.
We have Africans from Brazil. We have Africans from the United States. Well, the ones that claim that they are Africans, not Hebrew Israelites. We have Africans from
Indigenous Moors, indigenous Turtle Island, indigenous Moors.
no, no copper skin, not the copper skin people. I'm talking about people that identify, they look in the mirror, they know that they are African, but they
Mm-hmm.
are from somewhere else, right? So those types of people that do not have this cultural and traditional heritage, I would say, it's not their fault that they don't. And that doesn't give us a right to discriminate against them if they come into the country and they're trying to get married to our daughters. And we are like, oh, no, you don't have the Yoruba culture. I'm not going to let you do that. You don't have the Tiv Idoma culture. I'm not going to let you do that. That's just unfair. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to be selling ourselves short if we do that. Besides, a
Yeah.
lot of people from all over the world have different skills and attributes that they can contribute to our development as a whole in terms of
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria and the entire continent of Africa. So
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so many things that we need to let go of right now. And I feel like I'm coming into this conversation from a political and economic standpoint because me personally, what I feel like is that if a country, right, if a country has a bunch of people that have a decent standard of living, okay, you can wake up in the
Mm-hmm.
morning, you have constant electricity, you have constant running water coming out of your tap, you're not
Mm-hmm.
scared of security challenges. You know for a fact that you don't have to, if you go to a police station, you don't have to bribe someone to get the job done
Yeah.
over a complaint that you have. Things are working. If things are working, there will be less tribalism. And I'll give you a typical example. In South Africa, during the time of xenophobic attacks, so many times that they've had xenophobic attacks against non-South Africans, which are obviously
Mm.
black people. And they would never touch the
Yeah.
Muzungus, they will never touch the Indians, they will never touch the
Right.
Chinese because they have low self-esteem. Now, going back to my example, they attack the Africans first
Right.
because their economic situation is bad at that point. The common complaints are, oh, these Nigerians are taking our jobs, the Zimbabweans are taking our shops, the Nigerians are taking our women. Those are the types of complaints that they have, which are mostly economical, if you think about it, right? If these South Africans had no problem with their economics, they were good, and they were just doing good economic wise, there will be less xenophobic attacks. So I feel like that's another example that we can point to that shows there is a correlation between political and economic values of a country and tribalism. Another example, in Europe, the EU has been kicking against immigration. Now they are more similar to Donald Trump's mindset. A lot of these European countries are talking about, oh, we don't want no migrants, we don't want no Muslims from the Middle East. They come into our countries, they get married to our kids. They just make a bunch of complaints. The reason why that is the case is that a bunch of European countries at this time in history are going through economic hardship. And that's why they are looking for fingers to point at foreigners living in their countries, people that are non-European. It's just a world issue at the end of the day, right? But me personally, the African Wahala, I'm all about my African people around the world. And I just want us to come together. That is my dream. If we can come
Yeah.
together, look beyond our differences in tribal, in terms of tribes, in terms of foreign imported religions like Christianity, Islam, and stuff like that, we would do very well. We would actually grow. Right now, man,
Yeah.
without a doubt, you think about the number of Africans that we have living in Brazil, living in America. In Brazil alone, they have about
After
70
Wahala,
million black people.
after Wahala, there's more Yorubas in Brazil than there is in Nigeria.
It's crazy.
Uh,
There's this tribe in Cuba. I just discovered them. They're called man, shit, I can't remember right now. But the thing is,
one second, guys. Make sure you hit that like button. And again, if you want to call in, okay, send me an email. If you want to call in, send me an email, and I will email you the link if you want to call in. But yeah, there's more, and then hit the like button. And there's more Yorubas in
Brazil.
Brazil, Nigeria. Hold on one second.
You
Prince,
know,
go ahead. One second. Go ahead, Prince.
Hello,
Prince. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fine.
All right. So what were you saying? You're Igbo, and what were you saying?
I live in America. I was born and raised in America, but my parents are from Anambra State.
Okay. But you were saying something about as far as getting married.
Yeah, I prefer to marry from my own tribe, Igbo, because I feel like I can
Can you hear?
understand Igbo than another tribe.
Why is that? Why is that? Unpackage that.
It's because of the language. That's why, basically,
No.
Can you see?
the language.
Language. So let me ask you this: in a Virtue Grace's situation, so she was dating an Igbo man for 5 years, and in year 5, he tells her that he can't marry her because she's not Igbo. What are your thoughts about that?
And he was from Anambra State. That was why immediately he said he's from Anambra State. I said,
I think you should date him.
No, did you understand the question?
Say it again.
She was dating an Igbo man for 5 years. They dated for 5 years.
Okay.
In year 5, he tells her that he cannot marry her because she's not Igbo. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I agree because of the language and the cultural and the traditions of it.
But they were dating for 5 years.
Yeah, but it's gonna take a long time for them to understand the differences.
Let me ask you, what about Igbos that don't speak the language? I know a lot of Igbos that don't speak the language.
For me, I don't speak the language that well because I wasn't born and raised over there.
But Prince, you just said that you would date an Igbo woman because of the language, but you don't speak the language.
But I do understand it. I do understand it, but I can't speak it back.
You
So,
understand?
these are the problems we have in Nigeria. Do you
Uh,
know Igbo people? My ex was also from Anambra State, just the same way Prince Chinwuba is from Anambra State. People from Anambra State find it difficult to marry even fellow Igbos, say from Enugu State. So we are all Igbo, but because I'm from Anambra State, you are from Enugu State. Mm. And then if you are from Anambra State, for instance, I'm from Imo State, we all speak Igbo. But they say no, these people's Igbo has K leg. These people's Igbo, they are like this. Then if you go up, those Igbos that are close to Cross River and Benue State, those Ebonyi State Igbo, those ones they look at them somehow. So an Igbo person from Anambra State will hesitate to marry an Igbo lady from Ebonyi State because they feel like those ones are not proper Igbos. Anambra people, they have everything going for them. They have money, they have swag, they have everything. Anambra Igbos, they are up here. So they feel this certain sense of pride. That is where Chimamanda Adichie is from, Chinua Achebe is from there, they are educated, they control a lot of money, they're industrious. So they place themselves here. So it's difficult for somebody from Anambra State to even marry another Igbo person from another part of, the same Igbo from, say, Imo or Ebonyi or Abia State. So even amongst Igbos themselves, there's usually problems. We cannot marry Abombise, we cannot marry Ngwa. Ngwa people, they eat human flesh. This one, just some kind of flimsy, crazy excuses that they give. You hear Prince Chiwumba has said now that he will only marry an Igbo lady because of the language. So that therein is our problem in this country. Because of the language, not because of who the person is, or
but Grace, I'm
you know
confused. Prince said he doesn't speak the language.
yes, that therein is the problem. He doesn't even speak the
Oh,
language.
okay, hold on, guys. Let me. Here we go. Now I got my brother Ebube in. Ebube, I might have seen you on link. I got it because now Ebube is gonna set the record straight. I want. Ebube, I'm sending you the link right now. Ebube, hold on, but Prince, brother, we appreciate you coming on, Prince. We appreciate you coming on, brother. Okay, hold on. Real Pan Africanism, real quick. Go ahead and add what you got to add, brother. I got to bring other people on.
Oh, so okay. I just want to say the tribal when you sit here, I like this show, but when you sit here and you listen to these people explain how tribalism works, it doesn't even make and Nigerians are real smart, but they do. I don't want to say the word stupid, but they do like to play ignorant about a lot of stuff. I'm not Lou Major, right? They like to play ignorant and start trying to throw this stuff out. Nigerians are all over the world marrying white people, Asians,
Exactly.
anything. But then
Exactly.
but when you confront them on it, it's all about what mama and daddy said. But when you marrying a dude at your job, mama and daddy ain't approving that, but you're gonna do it anyway. So stop
Yes.
blaming the elders. They resting, they out at the village. You over here using tribalism whenever it's convenient for you. And soon as y'all accept that and stop trying to have the Negro stalling tactics, which are very common among all black people, then we'll be able to progress forward. But even entertaining it and trying to throw that out there, that's all Negro stalling. And y'all got to get past that. That's just all I got to say. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you 100%. The thing is, for the few Nigerians who
This guy right here. I'm sorry, Lou Major. I'm Lou Major. With your chilla odd and your phrase. Listen, your disclaimer. Lou Major, your disclaimer. And right now, hold on. Lou. Right now, I agree with 80% of what you say right now, but we'll see how.
Didn't you just say 85 yesterday?
Oh, it's 80 today. Let me bring a Bube out too. All right, it's 80. Lou is 80 today. Guys, hit that like button, please. As you come to the chat room, please hit the like button, hit that like button. All right, Virtue Grace, go ahead and let me get a Bube on because Bube is going to set the record straight. That's my brother. Ibo Kwenu, Bube.
Iwo Queen. Welcome.
Welcome, Alpha.
I'm good. Good to meet you.
Ebube, peace and blessings, brother.
Brother. Donis, do I have the floor or Virtue have the floor?
Well, no,
I honestly want to hear Lou Major speak. I swear down.
No, hold on. We'll get to Lou Major. We'll get to Lou Major. But Bube, go ahead, Bube.
All right. Now, when we talk about Nigeria, we have to remember that Nigeria isn't a country like most other countries that had a common identity where people shared a culture, a value, a religion, a way, a vision for the nation. So Nigeria, we're still trying to figure out what it means to be Nigerian. So Nigeria is really made up of nations. So within those nations, the people generally trust themselves, do business with themselves, and even marry within themselves. Now, when it comes particularly to the Igbo group within Nigeria, you have to remember that the Igbo fought a war against the nation to not be part of that nation. And so after the Civil War, the nation had to move forward as one nation. And to an extent, there was still some resentment against the Igbo for the part that they played in the war, which led to marginalization and which led to Igbos to view some of their neighbors with suspicion. And it led to their neighbors, other ethnic groups, to view the Igbo with suspicion. Now, we're just one generation removed from that. Our fathers fought against each other in a civil war. So we didn't fight the civil war against each other. So when we're looking at it as we're all Nigerian. But Nigeria is a very young country, and our parents' generation don't look at each other the same way we look at each other. So it's not surprising that when you go to marry in our culture, you have to bring the person before your parents. So when you bring someone who's Yoruba, someone who's Hausa, someone that's Tiv, someone that's Idoma, they may have preconceived notions because at age 19, they were spending 18 months on a battlefield fighting that very same ethnic group, and they lost close friends. So it's not as if these demarcations are arbitrary. These are just a natural result. And then I'll say this first. There's nothing wrong with wanting to marry within your culture. One of the hardest things you're going to do in life is pick a partner to go through this life journey with. Now, someone from your culture that shares your culture typically shares a similar value system and typically views marriage, because marriage is a cultural event. There are cultural expectations. A Hausa or a Fulani man will expect his wife to do very different things than an Igbo man who expects his wife to do things, or a Yoruba man who expects his wife to do certain things. So there's also cultural expectations that are tied into marriages. And when one says, you know what, to keep things simple, I'm going to stay and marry within my own ethnic group, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're not going out of your way to say, you know what, as long as you're not disparaging other ethnic groups by showing love to your ethnic group. It's like if you're African American and you say, you know what, I want to marry a black woman. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Because within Black society, there's certain cultural understandings that your Chinese wife or your Filipino wife or your Spanish wife or your white wife might not understand. And there are some things that you may never see eye to eye because she was raised under this household and you were raised under that household. Now, in regards to dating someone for 5 years and then they not marry you, we have to really ask ourselves the question, did that person even want to marry you to begin with? And were they just stringing you along? And at the end of it, they just use tribalism as an easy excuse. Because when it comes to something as complicated as love, there's a lot of moving factors. And to just merely say, oh, it was tribalism, that might be an oversimplification of a very complex issue.
You wanna respond, Grace, or Lou Major? You wanna respond, Lou Major?
Okay.
I don't have a response. I do have an observation and a question, and I'm actually glad that Ebube is probably the most qualified person to answer this. Well, not the most qualified, but I know he'll have a good answer. Here in Ghana,
Yeah, Lumen, was that a compliment or was that a? I don't know with you,
Controversial as
Lumen. Was
ever.
that a compliment or was that a backhanded diss?
This guy, man.
What is so funny? I'm not even sure about saying what's funny.
Is in the building.
No, actually, no. Here's it. I don't know if this is the case in Nigeria, but here in Ghana, one thing I do see is I hear this tribalism issue comes up all the time with the different tribes and the things like that. And I hear about that. I don't know how extreme it is in Nigeria. It might be just more extreme. But one of the things that I do notice is these people, they'll say how it's important for them to marry within their tribe. And I think that's fine if that's how they feel until they see a white girl.
Peace Corps, Brad. Peace Corps, Becky. Peace Corps,
or a white guy, and
They're
it
doing it for
suddenly
poverty, bro.
changes.
And
now
tribalism goes out of the window and they're ready to go right then and there, right? That's something you've noticed, correct?
yes, now, is that the same in Nigeria? By the way, I don't want to speak presumptively about your country, but I do hear about that as well.
Here's the problem. I think that's a Pan-African. That's one thing in Africa that we do share is that to an extent, when we see other groups with other skin colors, we put them on a higher plateau. Now, there may be a lot of reasons for that. There may be because when certain religions were brought to us, they would paint all of the people from that particular holy book one way, blonde hair, blue eyes. So maybe subconsciously we associate it with that. But the problem is this, and you brought up a good point. In Africa, completely, within ourselves, we'll be fighting. Oh, you're Yoruba, I'm Igbo, we're this, we're that. Well, I can't marry you because of this ethnic group, which may or may not be true. But then when a European shows up, all of those fall to the wayside because for some reason, we as Africans love outsiders more than we love ourselves. Fela Kuti even talked about that anything foreign is better than anything domestic. So you're making an observation that runs through all of Africa because Africans can put aside tribalism and differences, just not with each other. We can put aside our tribalism and differences, as you noted, when a European shows up, then all of a sudden we'll put them in our regalia and we'll put them through all the ceremonies and all the customs as if they were from our exact village. But when someone from another state or even another ethnic group shows up, well, then all of a sudden, Yoruba food is too oily. I don't understand them prostrating. It's just too different, quote unquote. But then someone from Poland or Germany or Ireland doesn't get that same treatment.
Well, then if that's correct, then because I want to say this, I gotta say this. And
Lou, let me do this. Lou, let me do this. Let me have Virtue. Let me have Grace respond to Bube.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I'll mute.
Go ahead, Grace.
Okay, so if we go back to the question of the discussion is, can intermarriage foster unity amongst Nigerians? That's what we are trying to figure out here. And the angle from which Ebube came, I want to, in a way, disagree because as Nigerians, if we are going to seek for unity and national development, then it's important for us to, first of all, begin to seek to understand ourselves as Nigerians, put our cultural differences aside and seek to understand ourselves first, and then we can, foster national unity. It's easy for a Nigerian to quickly jump off, get married to somebody, a European or whatever. But like he said, it's difficult for a Nigerian from within the same state, but from different ethnic groups to get married. And like I was saying earlier, that's because of the cultural suspicion that we have, because this person is Igbo and not Igbo. Igbo people are a certain way, so I have to tread cautiously. But we don't tread with caution when it comes to getting married to foreigners. So now, I see that as hypocrisy and I see that as a problem. If we cannot trust ourselves, then why is it easy for us to trust people from outside? So it's important that we, first of all, work on our trust issues within. I mean, we are in the same country, probably the same state, but because I speak a different language from you. But then you get married to somebody, a Thief person gets married to a French person. The language barrier is obviously there, but you do not care about it. You are willing to, make the sacrifice and probably learn the French man's language in order for you to make that marriage work for obvious reasons. But you're not willing to sacrifice to learn maybe Tiv language or Hausa language or Igbo language so that you can communicate effectively with your spouse. So those are the issues. There's pidgin language in Nigeria, which is like the general language, but a lot of people tend to ignore it because they see it as less prestigious and a language for the lower class and the less educated.
Sister, you're
But there
talking
are a lot of
about this
people
self-esteem issue.
but there are a lot of people who get married. For instance, an Edo person will get married to a Yoruba woman and they are communicating in pidgin. They are happy. They have children. And everybody is happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, but
But this is just a sentiment that people from certain parts of the country hold about other people. So because I'm from this tribe, I must marry my tribe. I can't marry someone else because it's easier for me to understand them. It's easier for me to speak my language with the person.
I gotta tell you, I've been living in Africa here for several years, and the conclusion that I have come to, this show is about intermarriage, about trying to help solve Nigeria's problems, and I would say it wouldn't matter intermarriage. It wouldn't matter about most of the things that we talk about. As a person who's actually here, what I feel, and Ibobe, you've given me good answers in the past on things, but this is my perspective, man. What I feel, my biggest frustration with Africans in general is the same frustration that you probably will have with blacks in America and blacks everywhere. It's this profound inferiority complex,
Bro, that's it, man.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, like that is the problem. That is the problem of Africa. The problem with Africa is the Africans. And it's not like Africans are like bad. That's not what I'm saying. And I don't want any sensitive people to start getting mad. What I'm saying is that Africans, just like a lot of black people globally, there is this profound self-hate. And I won't lie to you, it gets frustrating. It is extremely frustrating. Like, and it's to the point, like I said, I was using an example the other night the last time I was on here with African Tigress, where I will take white investors who I'm doing business with. I'm paying for the meal. Okay. I will take them to a nice restaurant. I am paying for the meal. I have more money than the people I'm taking to the restaurant. And I will be treated worse. And I'm the guy paying for the meal by my own people. Like there is, and so we could talk about intermarriage. Intermarriage would get solved if this inferiority complex gets solved. I don't know why this persists, because the reason that it's so frustrating is an inferiority complex versus white people. I could kind of understand, primarily because every racial group has that. If the Chinese, to a certain extent, see themselves as inferior, the Indians do, the Latinos do, everybody does, because of media, religion, and all of that stuff. The thing that I don't understand is that Africans, black people, I want to lump us all together because we all have this, seem to feel inferior to everybody.
Let me answer your question. You asked why we have that complex, and it's global. Lumage, you have to understand that currently in this phase of the world, we're in a global system. And about 500 years ago, a certain group, they realized they were genetically recessive, and they traveled around the world and realized that they were a minority. So then they created a system where those with the greatest amount of melanin were put at the bottom. Those who had the highest genetic capacity to annihilate what they created as their value system were put at the bottom, and those happen to be black people globally. So one thing as black people that we have to realize is, we're different tribes. We love and celebrate our culture, but we're playing this game as black people. And we need to, and see, this is a problem that's pervasive anywhere you see black people. we look down upon ourselves and we project that onto each other. So yeah, Lou Mage, you have the money, but if I see this person from Europe and I'm a typical African or a typical African American or a typical Haitian, I'm gonna give them deference because of their skin color, because globally as a team, their team is winning. So 9 times out of 10, they would have the resources because they took the resources, they kept it within their group, and they work constantly hard today to ensure that those resources stay within their group. So until we dismantle the system that was set up to put us at the bottom purposefully everywhere you see us, then we're going to have this problem because we're going to be consistently put at the bottom based on how the system is structured.
But Ibobe, I hear what you're saying, and I used to have that same conclusion as well until I started realizing something profoundly important, which is white people are white people, and they hate everybody, and they're racist towards everybody. And what I'm realizing is, for example, the Chinese figured that out. The Indians have figured that out. Even the Latinos now have figured that out. They didn't figure it out before, but they figured it out now, which is like, you know what? These white people are never going to like us. Fuck them. Let's just go ahead and build our own stuff. And so what has happened is the Chinese have out capitalist the capitalist. That's why Americans are so mad right now, Chinese people, because the Chinese people have outright outsmarted them, right? And the Indians are figuring it out too. The only people who still has not figured this out is us. And I'm being honest with you, dude, it will lead you to a level of depression at some times because you feel like you're punching at air. Because, no, you're laughing, but Dynas, I know you feel the same frustration.
Lou Major, I feel like Africans in diaspora have figured this out already, but continental Africans have not figured it out yet.
No, African in diaspora have not figured this out, man. Trust me.
Here's part of the problem. Lumich, here's part of the problem. See, in Africa, we're somewhat blinded to the global system because in Africa, we're dominated as a whole country, as a group. And it's typically invisible because we're sabotaged in a way where we don't directly see it in Africa. So when you're in Africa, people will say racism doesn't exist. Our problem is this corrupt governor, this corrupt senator, this corrupt minister, because they only see the end result of the system. But once you travel outside the country and you realize, wait a minute, these people don't like us too much, and then you start to study their history and you start to read books from certain scholars here in this country, you realize the full scope of what's going on. So on the continent, the only time they see people from Europe and different places, typically these people come in with quote unquote aid and resources. And so that's the only time they see them. So they're like, oh, these people are good because every time I see them, they're doing good. But they don't realize that that's less than 1% of the total interaction. And the total interaction ends with us on the bottom every single time. So they don't really understand the global game that's being played because we're dominated within Africa externally. So inside Africa, we don't really see who the puppet master is.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
I need to chip in. I need to chip in.
I do agree with you on that. I'm just simply saying that the Europeans have done that and are doing that to countries all over the world. And I'm saying that's the problem. Like, what I'm saying to you is everything you're saying is accurate, Ibube. What I'm having a hard time understanding, and you have to understand that this is not just an African problem. I think some of us black folks in like the diaspora would love to say that this is an African problem, but this is a black people problem. Black Americans have the same problem. Black Europeans have the same problem. This is not like new. This is not just exclusively African. The only difference in Africa is that it's blatant. They'll say it, right? Like they will blatantly not serve you well because you're black and tell you that. That's the only difference. But it's the same thing. It's not. So I want to make that clear for some, because there are some black folks who will sit there and bash Africans and say, "Oh yeah, Africans have these problems." No, man, do black people have this problem? And what I'm saying is, what is keeping us black folk from figuring this out. What's going on? Because you have to understand, like, I came here to Africa to do good, to try to help my people. So when I have children, my children don't suffer from this inferiority complex. But it wears on you, man. It really does. As a person who's here, I'm telling you, it will wear on you.
Hey, Lou Major, I need to add to something. Lou Major, please, brother. Now, honestly, bro, so many things you say that I consider as controversial, but today you're 100% spot on. Now, this is where I have a problem. So I'm going to change the topic slightly just to get my point across. You know, we're talking about global African reunification. We need to get together so we can get stuff done. I mean, it's very important. But one point that you've mentioned consistently today, Lou Major, is that we have inferiority complex. No doubt about that. And the truth is, listen, man, a lot of people get angry and emotional when we talk about these truths because they don't like hearing the truth. But until we realize the truth and we address it, then we're not going to move forward from it. The truth is, we have inferiority complex, brother. We have low self-esteem, and that's just the truth. Listen, the point I was making earlier about, okay, if someone has money, he has a lower chance of being rejected in a marriage proposal to someone from an ethnic group that he's not from. That is a fact. That happens all the time. Now, looking at the bigger picture, trying to envision the near future. Let's assume the entire world gets good. Africans in the diaspora, a lot of them are coming back to the continent, mingling in, settling down, trying to get business contracts and stuff like that. Let me ask you a question, Lou Major. And Grace and Ebube, I'm asking everybody this question. Please, I need you guys to let me know what you think. If an African American company, for example, an engineering firm from the US, comes into Africa, tries to build a business relationship with the government of Ghana or the government of Nigeria versus CCECC. CCECC is a Chinese engineering firm that has been running in Nigeria for a long time. If CCECC comes in with their portfolio, their business proposal, their resume, basically, and an African-American group comes in with the same portfolio, with a resume, showing the engineering works they've done, they've accomplished.
Or even better.
Do you think the Nigerian government would give the African-American company the benefit of the doubt over the Chinese company? My own answer to that question is no.
Most likely the Chinese company would get it 10 times over 10 times.
100% more chances of getting that
That's
contract.
why we have a problem.
And that's the
why
problem.
we have a serious issue. We have low self-esteem.
I know, man. Like, I'm actually doing business here, man. It gets to you, bro.
After a while, I'll say one thing. We as global Black people, we have high individual self-esteem, meaning we all walk around with our chest out, as in, do you know me, type behavior. But when it comes to our collective self-esteem, as in Inogo Hapun, that's how we look at it, meaning that individually, you can't disrespect a Nigerian individually. But as a group, we don't feel that we're capable of anything. So when we talk about self-esteem, we have high individual self-esteem, but low group self-esteem. And that's because in the system on the planet, we've been artificially put at the bottom. Now, you have to remember, let's compare it to China. China was put at the bottom during the 17 and 1800s. And you know what they did? They said, you know what? Let's look at this thing realistically. We're at the bottom, but we're not really at the bottom. Let's find a new person to be at the bottom. And they pulled themselves up, and conveniently, Africans, we entered that bottom slot. Now, what the Africans need to do is what we need to do is say, you know what? Right now, globally, Black people, anywhere you see Black people globally, we're at the bottom. We need to change that, because unless we change that, no one's going to say, hey, look, unless
And
we
hey,
change
Bube,
that, nobody's going to say, hey, look, you're at the bottom. Let's trade places.
Yesterday I said something that people thought was controversial. I want to address something. I want to quickly say something. Is that a lot of people will say that what I say is controversial or offensive.
Lou
The
Major, you're
reason
like a shot with no chaser. That's what you are. You're a shot with
what I
no
am
chaser.
is because I am here, man. I know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm not as political as you, Abube. You are very political. Man, I wish I could partner with you in business and you do all the talking publicly and I just do all the numbers and actually make the cold hard, because I'm good at that. I'm
Let's do it.
not,
Let's do
you
it.
know what I'm saying? But we'll talk. But the issues that I had, well, yesterday I said the African populace, and I maybe used the wrong word, I said is stupid. But what I really was trying to say is this. Who here has read the book The Great Steam Hammer? It's not many people read. It's a very old book from 1910, but it's called The Great Steam Hammer. All right, I would suggest all of you pick it up if you could find it. And what it pretty much talks about is the concept of 85-15, which is that 15% of the population, in essence, rules 85% of the population, and it compares the 85% to steam. The most powerful kind of source of energy for a long time has always been steam. However, there's always been this need of how do you corral steam, focus it so that it could accomplish an objective, and that's when they came up with the steam hammer. And what the book was a book and that ends up concluding is that it is the obligation of the 15% to be the great steam hammer of the 85. In essence, to herd these kind of incapable people, because that's what they are. They're incapable beings. And then you focus them, because people collectively, when working together, can do a lot of things. And so it's the responsibility of the 15% to kind of herd these individually incapable beings and then target them towards doing something great. And then the reward that the 15% gets is resources, money, power, prestige, the ability to make decisions. That's the reward of the 15% for being the great steam hammer, carrying the burden of the great steam hammer. And what I realize is every racial group has their 85%. I mean, you can find some dumb white people. Trust me. I know some dumb white people. I know some dumb Chinese people. I know some dumb Arabs. They're out there. But what all of those groups have is their 15% takes on the burden of hurting these people, targeting them towards accomplishing things, building great pyramid, building great companies, corporations, being innovative. What I feel is that Black people, nobody wants, and the 15%, at least 15% in the Black society globally, refuses to take on that burden. And rather, what they end up doing is they give that talent, that ability, to white society or Chinese society and enrich them rather than taking on the burden of their own people. The first thing that people have to acknowledge is that most people in all races are stupid. That means most Black people globally are stupid. That's not a bad thing. That's just reality. Most people are stupid, and that's okay. It is the responsibility, however, of people like, say, you, Abube, or people like myself, or people like you, the African, the 15% among us have to take on the burden of Black people. Because if we don't take on the burden of Black people, we get these problems. Because I have to be honest with you, I'm not Nigerian. But if I was Nigerian, I would be proud to be Nigerian. I would also be very embarrassed to be Nigerian. Not because Nigeria is a bad country, but because for Nigeria to have that much oil, that much resources, that much people, and not be one of the most dominant countries in the world should make you feel humiliated. And it's
with that, we also have to look at human capital too. Now, what we have in Nigeria is a situation where things are going to rapidly change. Now, I hate to use this analogy, but I'll talk about. You're familiar with the Taliban, correct?
Of course, yes.
And you're aware on the effect that they had in Afghanistan, correct?
Of course, of course.
All right, now I'll just briefly talk about that. Now, what happened in Afghanistan is that the Russians were fighting a very dirty war. They were using toys that would explode to maim children. And so what happened is that the women and the children left the country into Pakistan and essentially left Afghanistan as a country full of men, right? Because you're fighting someone who's dropping toys off that explode. That's how crazy the war was. So now these children are raised in Pakistan for 20 years, and they're raised outside of the country. They're schooled in these schools. That the word Talib means student. Taliban means the plural of the students. And so after 20 years, once they reached maturity, they came back into the country, and they completely changed the direction of the country within one generation. Now, the point is that Africa and Africans are similar. You have so many Africans in America, Europe, Asia obtaining skills and knowledge that their parents and their forefathers simply didn't have and couldn't attain. And the same way the Taliban went into Afghanistan and had an impact, the impact that's going to come within this decade, when many of those children have reached maturity and are going into their 30s and their 40s, and some are still coming into their 20s, the impact that they're going to have once they return to Nigeria is going to grow leaps and bounds based on the effect it's going to have.
Are they going to come back, man?
Yes.
I mean, that's
because, for example, you look at people like me. I was born in Owerri. I left the country as a small child. I go back every year. And right now, I'm angling to get into government. That's going to happen. And I know everybody in my circle is doing the same things that I'm doing. Now, other African countries may be different, but I know Nigeria for sure, the leadership of that country within this decade, the 20s, people are actually going to look at Nigeria as a model of what an African nation should be. And that's because we left, we came outside, and we got a clear picture of what the real game is. We weren't like our fathers and our forefathers before them who were only in Nigeria looking at other ethnic groups as the enemies. No. We know what the real geopolitical game that's being played is.
Well, I certainly hope that. And here's what I'll say, and I do want to be positive. What I find is the richer the African, the more it's easier to do business with them. Okay, so like, when you're dealing with the upper echelons, the people who lives in the mansions and drives the nice cars, they're actually fairly easy to do business with. I find it's everyone else. You know what I'm saying? It's everyone else, and so. What I feel is Africa and the black race, our race, it's a burden. And that's okay. But us, the 15%, have a responsibility to take up that burden. And the problem that I feel that I think what causes me to sometimes feel discouraged is I hear a lot of black folks talk a lot about all the problems, and every day you're bombarded with something bad happening to some black person somewhere in the world. Every day you're gonna get some notice. Somebody's disrespecting us. But then what I also see is that the talented black people, for example, in the United States, there are 40,000 black farmers, 40,000, who are constantly being screwed and messed with by the United States government. That's just in the United States. Africa has 60% of the world's remaining arable land, but imports food for the most part from other parts of the world. That doesn't make
what's happening in Sudan currently? In Sudan currently, they're really looking to change that because Sudan is going to, within this decade, supply most of Southeast Asia with their agriculture, if all goes well. That's what's planned. That's what's being executed. But a lot of Africans are taking advantage of the fact that anything you put in African soil is going to grow. So let's not discount that either.
Hey, listen, I think, for example, right now I've been thinking I need to make a trip to Lesotho because Lesotho, apparently grows an incredible crop of marijuana. And I believe Africa could probably one day be a huge marijuana exporter going forward, especially into that huge European market. There's opportunities. But Go try to talk to a Black American, the average Black American, and we're not talking not the average, a smart Black American who is a lawyer or a doctor, and try to talk to this guy about coming to Africa. That's a conversation.
Lumed, it's funny. So when I had Obsidian and Hodge on yesterday, I was trying to tell them the same thing. Like the end game for the majority of Black Americans is America. That's the end game,
and,
no matter what.
And that's because
and in Lou Major, it's like they hate America but love America at the same time.
That's not what it really is, man. And you know, Dynast, what I'm gonna do for you, because you're a reader and a writer and you're a smart guy, I'm gonna find my copy of The Great Steam Hammer, and I'm gonna find a way to get you that book. You need to read it, because what it is here's what's really going on. What you find out about most people in general is that most people do not actually want to be free. Because freedom costs something. What freedom actually means is you can do whatever you want, but it also means that you are responsible completely for yourself. That means you're responsible for building your home, protecting it. You're responsible for providing your own food. You're responsible for providing your own water, your own electricity, your own resources. That means you have to provide for yourself. Nobody's going to help you, right? And what you find with a lot of people is most people, what they really want is better conditions in their own slavery. Black people in particular, Africans, Blacks in general, are the biggest proponents of that. In the sense of Black people do not want to build their own institutions. They do not want to have to preserve those. They do not want to have to go through that process, but they don't want to be disrespected. That's what it comes down to. And so you say they love America and hate America at the same time. It's not even that, man. It's that America does everything for them. You go to Africa, it's wide open space, man. You go to Ghana, man, I'm telling you, it's wide open space. You get 10 minutes outside of Accra, man. It's nothing but wide open space. All that is opportunity to build things, build towns, cities, hotels, anything. But that also means you have to go through the burden of doing all of that. And let's just be frank, Black people don't want to do that.
Right.
They
don't want
to. Too, that's kind of been driven out of Black people. There was a time when Black people had that spirit. Immediately after slavery, they had that spirit to build their own. Unfortunately, they didn't realize that along with economic prosperity, you have to have a military. So after Black people, Black Americans in this country in the 1890s, 1910s, what happened is they would just come in and blow up all the economic progress that Black people were making. So let's not discount Black people completely, because Black people have tried, but they're inside the house through the oppression. We in Africa can say, wow, I can set up a hotel or a restaurant and it'll flourish, and because the people who regulate this look like me, the police look like me, everybody looks like me. The game is on easy when you're in Africa. You just have to deal with the African problems. But once you get over the African problems in anywhere in Africa, you're good, as seen by the fact that you have Lebanese by the millions, Indians by the millions, Chinese by the millions. You look at South Africa, you have the Dutch by the millions living and enjoying themselves in Africa. That's because you're absolutely right. It's free. It's open. You can do what you want. You can build what you want. You can make money. You can economically empower yourself. Now, it's not that.
Bro, I found out the other day that a lot of Africans have never had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, bro.
And you know what? Imagine what it would be like to have a gourmet peanut butter and jelly restaurant sandwich. Now, it sounds very simple and very basic, but some of the best ideas are simple and basic. So, you know. So I'll say 2 points. Yeah, that's a good business idea, and I might steal that from you because you're a very intelligent guy. And then the second point is, let's not discount foundational Black Americans, African Americans, because they're under the most direct pressure. And the thing is this: the same way the Jews in Israel needed the Jews in America is the same way that the Africans in Africa need the Africans in America. It's a synergy. Unless we bring them on board and we make them understand that, hey, look, this is your home and this is really where economic opportunities lie, we're missing something.
Please,
But
can I interrupt for a second? Wait,
yeah,
Lou, please wait 1 second. Lou,
please do. Go ahead, man.
When you first moved to Ghana, how you said something really interesting. You said, man, it's an open field. Well, tell me, what was your perspective like when you got to Ghana? You've been there for some weeks, some months, and you start seeing these opportunities everywhere of things you can improve on. Just explain to me, please. How did that feel?
Well, when I first got to Ghana, I was actually extremely upset because I was expecting this desolate, impoverished place filled with people, children with expanded stomachs. And then when I actually got to Ghana, man, Accra is a pretty metropolitan city. Until you get outside of Accra, then you start to realize that it's not so metropolitan, but the city center itself doesn't look that much different than most other cities. So that was actually the first thing that caught me when I was like, whoa, this is not what I was told, you know what I'm saying? But of course I came as, the typical ignorant American. And then when you start to understand it you start to realize these people have never had a lot. And so you start to see all these opportunities that are obvious. They're glaring. Like, it's not like, for example, like in America, you have to build a better mousetrap in America. You have to come up with something that nobody else is doing, and you got to do it in this incredible way. And that's how you make money, because America has everything, right? Africa, what's amazing, you don't even have to make a better mousetrap. You could just take something that somebody else is doing, because they need everything, in a sense. Not in a sense of poverty, it's just it's not there. And so to be able to take the position, and here's the thing that I'm going to say to you, bro. Like, as you go throughout Africa and you start seeing like Indians and Arabs, when you actually talk to these Indians and Arabs, man, these guys are dumb as fuck. They're not actually
right. And you know what they're doing? They're running $1 million businesses, which is the craziest part. I've never understood that.
And you're like, yo, you're not that smart. It's like you think to yourself, because you're used to, when you're from a Western country, like a millionaire is usually a pretty intelligent person. But then you get there and you're like, you talk to like these Indians and Arabs who's making all this money. You're like, man, this dude's not that competent. He doesn't even run his business that well. Like, I could eat this guy's lunch. And then here's where the frustration comes. Then you want to go eat his lunch. You need your troops behind you, but in the minds of like your fellow Africans, they're gonna roll with that Indian guy, even though, even though, like, you could clean his clock, like, you're sizing the dude up, because that's what you do, like, like. You come from a certain environment, like I did coming from the United States. You have a certain mentality when you run into anybody. You go into an environment, you look for the big dog, you try to clean his clock and take his spot and eat his lunch. That's what you do. And so you go to this guy, you're like, man, I'm going to clean this guy's clock, but you need to get your team. And then you realize that these people, that's where your frustration comes in. Black America, like Dinah Samir, okay? Man, he could come to Ghana, he could go to Tanzania, and bro, these Indian dudes who got all the money, man, he will eat their lunch, bro. Like, a dude like you, Abube, you'll eat their lunch. They're not even that smart, bro. But the way you're gonna have problems, man, is other Africans.
Not necessarily. Here's why.
Real quick, we'll stay on for about 12 more minutes. So Abube, go ahead, respond. Then African Wahala, I had to mute you, African Wahala, because it's just the feedback is coming from you. And then Lou Major, you respond, and then we'll shut it down. But go ahead, Abube.
All right. So Lou Major, you raised some very good points, and you're always very informative to listen to. Now, it depends on the African country and the mentality of the people there. Like in Nigeria, for example, I have a few businesses there. They're doing well, and everything is on my side. And if I have a problem with somebody externally, a business competitor, well, then I have the advantage. And I'll just leave it at that. But when it comes to doing business in Africa, like you said, it's wide open. It's open for everybody who wants to come in with an idea and persistence. And the only thing you really have to deal with is the African factor. And once you can get past the African factor, typically you need somebody from the continent to help you navigate through that. Once you can navigate through that, you're set. Because like you said, you'll see an Indian person or an Arab or somebody from Europe, and they'll have a successful business, but they're not as competent as the fellas we see here in this circle. And they're making good money off a continent that we should be making the money from. We should get the primary benefit. Now, in Nigeria, for example, we get that benefit, period, point blank. And that's why Africa is a good destination for anybody who's melanated and wants to go there. Anybody from the diaspora should look into Nigeria. In Abuja, for example, Centenary City is coming up. In Lagos, you have Echo Atlantic City, which is being developed and planned out, and the plots are being sold. So right now, the next Dubai, the next Manhattan is being developed off the coast in Lagos. So anybody who wants to put together money and build a skyscraper and have a legacy in Africa can do that. Abuja is only 35% complete. Centenary City, whole new city in the capital city, is being developed. So anybody that wants to get in on that should look into real estate in Abuja. Real estate in Abuja right now, it's one of the hottest places in the world when it comes to real estate. That's a secret that the Western media isn't really talking about. But when it comes to real estate, some of the best real estate right now is in Abuja, Nigeria. In 10 years, you may get a five-time fold return of what you initially put in 10 years earlier. So right now, any African in diaspora should look into Abuja, look into Lagos. They should partner with somebody on the ground, because at the end of the day, you need someone on the ground that you trust. You have to find somebody that's trustworthy for them to help guide you through the process, because at the end of the day, every African American should have a legacy in Africa.
All right, African Wahala, go ahead and respond, and Lou Major will let you close out. Let African Wahala respond, and Lou Major, you can close out.
Okay. Not only African Americans, but Africans in the diaspora in general, from South America, the Caribbeans, those ones that found themselves in Europe, wherever you're from, at the end of the day, Africa still remains the spot with the light, Like, I live in the Western world currently, but that is where I will return to, because I know what is going on there, and I have some investments there as well. And I would encourage anybody to, as much as if you can, get a citizenship in any one of the countries, and then do your business, bro. If you're coming from America, your $1 is 400 naira. So, and it's just
360 now. 360.
Yeah, it's a lot, So at the end of the day, you being an American, if you're a dumb American, you will not make it, because you would waste your money. But if you're an average person, a smart person, yeah, you will do good, And not only Americans, I mean, Africans from all over the world. So yeah, that's all I have to say. And then I have a YouTube channel, The African Wahala. You guys can check it out. Dinas, do you permit me to put a link in the chat?
That's fine. Go ahead. No problem. Go ahead.
Okay, I just did.
Okay, perfect. All right, Lou Major, go ahead.
First thing first, Dinas, I need you to do me a favor. Abube, I need to talk some business with you, because I do want to get into Nigeria, but I'm actually having a really hard time. So, like, if you provide that kind of consultancy, I don't know what your fee is. Hopefully you're not too expensive, but we'll definitely need to talk for you to help me get set up in there, because I'm having a hard time. I've had at least 6 different people try to scam me out of some money. And it's, I'm like, man, the next time talk to this guy, Abube, I'm going to try to see if I could pay him some money and he could help me get set up or something like that. So if you could, if you could pass him my email, and Abube, you get, I don't know how much you charge as a fee. Hopefully you don't charge too much, man, but we definitely need to talk about
I don't really do upfront fees. I do more equity.
You are going to go for the juggler, aren't you? All right.
Why not?
Well, hey, no problem, man. But remember, man, sharks lose to wolves every time. Anyway.
This guy.
I don't know. But look, on a fairly serious note, we definitely do need to link up, and we'll talk about those things. But what I do need to say is that, you know, I would encourage any Black person with any talent and to come to Africa. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be hard. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to be depressed at times because you're going to feel like giving up. But it's worth it. You know, one of the things I've learned while being here is that life doesn't happen to you. Life happens for you. And at the end of the day, greatness, the great men in history, they did things that were inherently hard. And it is hard. It's hard here. I mean, the videos that Dinah shows you, it shows you a really nice place, but it's hard. It is hard in the sense that not because of how beautiful it's beautiful here and you feel at peace and it's nice, but just dealing with day-to-day people, it's going to be difficult, but it's also going to make you a better human being. And I would encourage, I want to say this again. I hear a lot of Black folks from different things will come up with different reasons to not come to Africa and all of these things, or they make these belated plans. Well, in 3 years I'll go. Africa needs you now. And here's the deal. No matter how American you might feel you are, or British you might feel you are, European you might feel you are, you're not that. And a tree is only as strong as its roots. And if we as a race are going to be respected anywhere, we have to seize what is ours. And now for those who are from the streets here, who grew up in rough neighborhoods in the United States or in the West like I did, I'm going to talk in a different language. Right now, you got a whole bunch of people coming on your turf and they're punking you and taking what's yours. They're running up in your house. They're taking your chicks. They're taking your money. They're taking your jewels. They're taking your chain. Now, where I'm from, if somebody tries to take your chain off your neck, that's murder. My curiosity is, are you really willing to let some Chinese people, some Indian people who are not as smart as you, not as talented as you, go into what your land, your property, take your gold, your diamonds, your tanzanite, your oil, everything that belongs to you? The reality is, whether you as comfortable as America might be, or as comfortable as Europe might be, it don't belong to you. Africa does belong to you. And right now, because we're letting everybody else have it, they're punking us and they're taking what's ours. Don't think that coming here, it's going to be sweet, it's going to be great, and it's going to be this utopic society. That's not the case. You need to become, if you do want to create a legacy for yourself, if you do want to be part of an elite class, if you feel like you're a leader, then you need to be here. You have a duty to be here. You have an obligation to be here. It's not, what I see here in Africa every day, the frustration you hear from me when I talk about Black people, it comes from the fact that I am watching every day people who are not African, who is not Black, taking what belongs to us. You know what I'm saying? They're going out into these country areas in Ghana, for example. They're tricking these locals, stealing their land, destroying the land, stealing gold, shipping it back to their country. 98% of the gold that comes out of Ghana's ground leaves Ghana. That's our gold. That's our coca. That's our petrol. And other people are taking it and getting rich off of it. And frankly, I'm kind of sick and tired of it. I'm frankly tired of this. And I'm curious to all the people who make fun of me and say all the shit that they say about me. Aren't you tired of being disrespected? And if you're a male, where's your self-respect? How do you look at your wife and your kids every single day and you let yourself be disrespected all the time, every day, as a community, and you don't do anything about it? Where's your manhood at? You know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like it's a nice experience being here all the time, every day. It's not. But what I will say to you is that it's worth it. And it's worth the struggle. And Bube, I just want you to know, man, you've got $1 million business just offering your consultancy services to African-American entrepreneurs who want to get on the ground in Nigeria, because let's just be honest, without a Nigerian and the know, man, I could tell you, it's not going to be good. So, hey, man, let's partner up on that. Let's partner up on bringing talent to Nigeria. and getting them set up the right way and helping them not get screwed out of money, so they can start building up Nigeria and taking what's theirs. Let's do that, because I actually do want to move to Nigeria, man. But again, people keep trying to scam me out of money, and I get it because I'm a foreigner and they can. But you know it is true what they say about Nigeria, man. It's a great market. Lagos is huge, 22 trillion. Abuja looks like any modern city. It's an incredible place, man. I would love to. You could buy yourself a mansion out there for $400,000. It's nothing. It's just you gotta figure out how to get in good out there. Now, Booba, you ought to offer that service, man. That's gonna make you a clean 350, 400,000 a year, man. Just bringing people all around and getting them set up out there, because they keep trying to screw us, man. They feel the need to screw me out of money every single time, bro. Like every time. So again, man, I feel like I want to say this again. All your people who are leaders, who've got talent, who've got skills, you have an obligation. This is not like a choice. You have an obligation to come and take what's ours, bro. Because if Africa keeps being in the state that it's in, we are risking in the next 10 to 15 years a permanent position as the underclass of the world. Permanently, as in it doesn't change. So I hope people can take heed to that, and I hope people can hear what I'm saying and hear that it's coming from a good place. And I hope that me saying this will encourage some people to come and not hesitate anymore. That job that's paying you $60,000, $70,000 a year, man, is making that company's making $300,000, $400,000 off of you. You could take that same talent that you're getting paid $70,000 a year for and build a Fortune 500 company here in Africa. The opportunities are ridiculous. Yeah, you'll have to deal with the Africans, and I know it's frustrating, but trust me, it's worth it. That's all I got.
Yes, sir. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Go to dynastymirror.com. Until next time, family, Dynasty Mirror, search for Huru.